Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade, and we're about to go along. This video is be kind of long. We got to do news and notes, including the big major announcement of Tony Khan buying Ring of Honor. We're also going to do just a short news and notes segment because I'm going to have to delete a lot of this stuff because I want to talk a lot about Ring of Honor. We're going to review the show, and then we're going to do Revolution predictions. We're going to do it all in one show. And thank you, everybody, who's been listening to the channel. I'm actually very impressed by the views I've been getting. That's very nice, especially since I only got like 1,200 subscribers. And it seems like most people actually watch the videos. So thank you very much. If you're not subscribed, hit me in the comment section and tell me why you're not subscribed. Everybody else, keep doing what you're doing. Thank you. Hit the like button. So let's not bury the lead. Let's talk about immediately Tony Khan buying Ring of Honor. So let's read the press release. I'm not going to read the whole thing simply because I think we've all seen this already and we've all looked at this already. But I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. So just in case people have not been paying attention, you've been out of the loop, and you come to this channel for information. It says, Tony Khan announces agreement to acquire Ring of Honor, video library, brand assets, intellectual property from independent wrestling's most prestigious promotion, purchased under new partnership with Tony Khan. Moments ago on AEW Dynamite live on TBS, it was announced that Tony Khan has agreed to acquire the assets of Ring of Honor Wrestling Entertainment, LLC from Sinclair Broadcast Group, including the promotion's extensive video library dating back to 2002, brand assets, intellectual property, production equipment, and more. Known widely as an independent promotion that birthed some of the wrestling's biggest stars of today, including AEW CM Punk and Bryan Danielson, and highlighted dozens of members of AEW's roster, Ring of Honor's purchase signifies a new chapter in the future of professional wrestling as AEW's meteoric rise continues to draw the youngest skewing wrestling audience on television. Quote, Ring of Honor's influence on modern professional wrestling is etched permanently in the history books, and this acquisition ensures that its legacy will be kept alive and treated with the utmost respect, said Tony Khan, CEO of AEW, Chief Football Strategy Officer of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and GM Sports Director of Fulham FC. The deal adds thousands of hours of content to our rapidly growing library and creates new opportunities to expand our footprint on a national and global scale. While having the potential to produce new content under the ROH banner, I will immediately begin exploring opportunities to make ROH's video library available to fans who have the opportunity to witness the beginnings of the careers of some of AEW's biggest stars. More than 40 members of the AEW roster have appeared in Ring of Honor during their careers. The promotion launched the careers of numerous AEW stars, including CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, it just listed a bunch of wrestlers, including Brody Lee and a couple of other guys. Ring of Honor has produced some of the best professional wrestlers over the past 20 years, but more importantly, it created a family. I will be forever grateful to everyone in the ROH family who has worked tirelessly for the past 2 decades to take ROH to levels previously unimagined, said Joe Koff, Chief Operating Officer of Ring of Honor Wrestling. Tony has the utmost appreciation and respect for Ring of Honor. I'm truly excited to see how he continues the legacy. This acquisition will be completed through an entity that is wholly owned by Tony Khan. Further details about the extent of this acquisition will be announced in the coming weeks. So it is owned solely by Tony Khan. It was not purchased by his father. So this is a very interesting piece of business here. Now, within the hour, of course, Fightful and Body Slam and No DQ, everybody had exclusives and backstage information. You know, they didn't know it. They didn't have any idea what it was, but once it was announced, they know everything, right? So it was announced that Tony Khan has paid between $20 and $40 million for Ring of Honor. So as we talk about this, let's start right there. Now, Tony Khan may be a money mark, but he's not a retard. He did not pay $20 million for Ring of Honor. Nobody would have paid $20 million for Ring of Honor. It's not worth $20 million. I'm sorry. I know you probably think Ring of Honor is great, but it's not worth $20 million. The Honor Club probably had like 300 subscribers. If that. It's not worth $20 million. It wasn't a hot touring brand. The TV was basically dead. What makes it worth $20 million? I have no idea. Even if I guess you paid $1 million a year for the library. And then I heard that the library isn't even like all together. It's like a hodgepodge from different people who've owned it, who own different pieces of the library. You know, that's what I heard. I don't know if that's true or not. So $20 million, that's the low end that he paid for it. It's like, no wonder Vince didn't want it. But speaking of Vince, do y'all remember when I did, some of y'all probably don't remember because you probably didn't listen to it. When Ring of Honor did their last show, Final Battle, in December, there were videos from Bryan Danielson and CM Punk and a bunch of guys who were in AEW. Basically talking about how much they love Ring of Honor and how sad they're seeing that Ring of Honor is quote unquote going on hiatus and that it was going to be essentially going out of business. Around that same time, the AEW fan base were absolutely pitching a bitch because Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and a bunch of those guys who were worked in Ring of Honor, who were in WWE, they did not participate. They didn't send any videos to Final Battle. So there were, Vince McMahon hates the business. He won't even let these guys say goodbye to their promotion. I think Samoa Joe even was still in the company at the time. And they were going on and on and on. Kevin Owens came out and said, like, we were never even asked to participate in that. You know, like, you know, some of them, I think, maybe watched the show. Some of them kind of didn't. But they said they weren't even asked. And now we see today that Tony Khan, CM Punk's boss, Bryan Danielson's boss, bought Ring of Honor. And then we see that, I think it was, I want to give them their proper respect. I think it was maybe bodyslam.net who put out that Tony Khan tried to buy Ring of Honor 2 years ago. That he's been trying to buy Ring of Honor for the last 2 years. Again, they had no idea that he was doing all this, but they know now that, you know, Tony Khan was trying to buy Ring of Honor 2 years ago. That was during the pandemic, by the way. So, you tell me if there wasn't some snake shit going on. They let the fans think that, oh, WWE just didn't want these guys to do anything. Meanwhile, it was a whole setup. And for starters, they had an AEW invasion at that show, by the way. You know, there was some AEW stuff going on that show. And then people kept saying, oh, I wonder why WWE wasn't involved. They will never let anybody do anything that cool. It's because Tony Khan was talking about buying the fucking company the whole time. Now, clearly, buying Ring of Honor is a good thing for Tony Khan. It helps bolster AEW's videotape library. They don't have enough content on their own to justify a high-priced streaming deal. I still don't think they do. Yes, they have all of this stuff with all of these old-timers, but you have to understand these people don't quite value Ring of Honor. Because if Ring of Honor was really worth a lot of money, like $20 million, Sinclair probably would have been able to get rid of this Ring of Honor long before this, okay? Now, Sinclair did get into some financial troubles over the pandemic, so they were probably more than happy to get rid of Ring of Honor. You know, they weren't doing a good job. They were not good stewards of Ring of Honor anyway. So they're probably excited to get rid of it. Now, now all of that being said, what is he going to do with it? Now, there were some articles that kind of did some stuff that made perfect sense. That he probably plans to run it as a developmental to AEW. Now, when you look at how he's been treating a lot of the last talents that was on Ring of Honor, for instance, he had Josh Woods, who I think was the pure champion of Ring of Honor. He had him do a job to Daniel Garcia on Dark. He's had Josh Woods doing, like, if he was going to buy the company and you knew you were going to buy the company, why would you take a guy who's the champion of that promotion? He's not the world champion, of course, but he's one of the champions of that promotion. And you completely job him out. If you knew you were going to buy the promotion, you know, why didn't you bring in the Briscoes? What took so long? Now, again, more information that supposedly nobody knew what was going on, but everybody has all the information afterwards. A lot of the remaining AEW contracts actually went lapsed the day before. So the day before the sale was announced, because we don't know when the sale went through, just when the sale was announced, that it was kept under wraps so that the wrestlers wouldn't know, so their contracts would lapse, and then Tony Khan could buy the company. But look at what he's been doing. All the former Ring of Honor talent has been turned into job guys. Jay Lethal, they're job guys. I was just watching a kayfabe commentaries timeline, and Tully Blanchard was talking about, hey, when Jim Crockett Promotions was going in and buying like Championship Wrestling from Florida, or buying Central States, which is I think Kansas City, from Bob Geigel, that the first thing he would do is feed their top guys to his top guys. And Tully was basically talking about how that was terrible business. And Vince did it too, by the way. Just not just bullying Tony Khan. Vince did it too. He did it with the Invasion. But it's bad business. It's a waste of money, you know? So you got Josh Woods, who is very good. He's very good. And you feed him to Daniel Garcia? Oh, get the fuck out of here. You know, get out of here with that. But obviously, will this make AEW more attractive in the streaming wars? They're hoping so. They're hoping that they can say we got all of this content and people are willing to enjoy this content. Clearly, they got all in, which is probably what they wanted, you know, more than anything, is they wanted that all in footage, because that's sort of the pupil stage of AEW. That's that middle part, right before AEW kicks off. So they won the emotional battle, but of course it's easy for me to say Tony Khan killed Ring of Honor and then purchased it, you know, because they did. You know, him snapping up the Elite, which were the only top guys in Ring of Honor, pretty much killed that brand. You know, and Ring of Honor was struggling after that. I mean, they were pretty much dead after that. There was literally almost nothing they could do to get hot after the Elite left. And the Elite left while they were hot, you know. And that's the big thing, is, you know, they left while they were on top, which is smart. You know, if you're going to leave, you leave while you're at your peak of fame, and you don't wait until you start coming down. You know, get out of there quickly. So, it was a great move for Tony Khan. I can't really knock him, but I'm going to tell you, if he paid $20 million for it, he's a fucking moron. I don't see him making that money back. Not immediately, anyway. Now, of course, he could always buy put it on the shelf somewhere, and maybe in time it'll be worth something. And maybe it was worth it just to keep it away from Vince. But I don't know. But he, running it as a developmental territory, okay. I don't mind that. But it seems that from what I see, and this is smart too, so I'm not taking a dig, that Tony Khan is just following Vince McMahon's footsteps. Buy a bunch of small town libraries and then try to package that into something that we can sell to a bigger network. I know a lot of the wrestling journalists were thinking that it was going to be an HBO Max deal. And I think that they're kind of just pushing that and really want that to be the case, that AEW gets a deal with HBO Max. But I'm looking at this and I say to myself, if you were Warner Brothers and you're not really in the wrestling business, you're kind of like, or I think Warner Brothers own HBO, right? Okay, so it's Warner Media, right? So if you're them and you're kind of looking at this wrestling thing and you're kind of like, I don't know, like, it's cool. I'm glad it gets viewers and everything. That's nice. And they come to you with this package talking about, hey, we got Ring of Honor now we got, 300 hours, I don't know, 3,000, 20,000 hours or whatever of material. Buy it from us, or we can lease it to you, similar to how WWE leases it to Peacock. Warner Media may look at that and be like, we don't exactly value this the same way that, NBC values it. It's a different thing, by the way. Ring of Honor at no point in time was a major national promotion. Never. You know, it was always a high-level independent. It was never a rival to TNA or WWE. Okay, so it has no brand. It has no brand name that anybody would know. As opposed to WWE, who at least, I mean, their own library is worth tremendous amounts of money due to just the WrestleMania brand. And then you talk about the long-running Raws and long-running SmackDowns and all that kind of stuff. They can, you know, cause a lot of money. AEW doesn't really have that. Even if they got the content, they might not have the quality of the content, and they might not have the name value that can be promoted to a national audience. They'd probably be able to get away with, hey, we got a dedicated 1 million followers, a dedicated 1 million fans who will sit and watch this stuff pretty regularly. There's people out there who would do podcasts on it. Hell, I may even get in on it. You know, and I don't even have HBO Max, but there's a lot of people who will be like, if you can get, you know, make it available to people, there's going to be lapsed fans and a bunch of other people who are going to jump on it. Yeah, but is it going to be worth for Warner Media doing it? And that's going to be the question, you know, because obviously the tape library is worth something, but what is it worth really when there's no real names on it? It's like the formative years of Bryan Danielson and CM Punk. Like, okay, well, we got these guys in their prime right now. You know, like, do I really care about their formative years? Like, do I really care about, you know, Kenta Kobashi being in, like, who is that guy to, if you are the CEO of Warner Media or you're in charge of HBO Max or whatever, like, who is that? What is that name to you? Like, what is that name of Nigel McGuinness? What is that name to you? What is the Briscoes? What is that name to you? If you're a wrestling fan, it's a big deal. You're looking at that stuff and saying, man, Ring of Honor has some really good shit on it. And it did. But if you're a CEO of some empty suit somewhere, you're like, I've never heard of these guys. You don't have like Goldberg or Steve Austin or Sting or somebody my kids would even know. Like, no, we don't like Sting. Yeah, we got him. He's 60, but we got him. You know, Jeff Hardy may be coming in, but you know, the Hardys are on the Ring of Honor. You know, I think Bubba Ray Dudley is on there. There's a couple of people on there that people will know. You know, Eddie Guerrero's on there. It should be, anyway. Assuming that they have the complete tape library. So that will be the question, is like, what is it worth in real terms and in real money? Considering Ring of Honor at no point in time was a big promotion. I don't know. And if he paid $20 million for it, man, he's a fucking moron. I can't believe he would do that. I can't believe he would do that. So I like it. I think it's a great move. Now, I'm going to criticize Tony. I've been criticizing Tony Khan a little bit here and there anyway. But I'm going to criticize him in a major way for the announcement and for making people wait a week for it. Because he had people sitting around waiting a week for something that was not that big of a deal. You know, it simply was not that big of a deal. Ring of Honor is a dead fucking brand. All right? And he had people's imaginations running wild for a week. And it's like, I said it on Twitter, I say it again, announcement is becoming the biggest star in AEW. They promoted announcements more than they promoted anything else on this show. There was nothing on this show that was promoted more than this announcement. That should be offensive. You got a pay-per-view Saturday. And your biggest star is an announcement? We're going to announce something? And it's going to change the face of the business? And for, you know, some people say it's overhyped, but it's not. This really does change the face of the business. Instead of it being, you know, 4 major wrestling promotions with Ring of Honor being a distant 4th, now it's only 3. Because now Ring of Honor does not exist as its own promotion anymore. It's not an independent anymore. It's a subsidiary of AEW. So now it's only 3 major wrestling promotions in the United States. And Impact is a distant 3rd. But does this increase the distance between AEW and WWE? No. No. It's not quite Evolve. You know, WWE buys Evolve, nobody cares. It's not that bad. You know, for Ring of Honor has a dedicated fan base. It has history. But what I'm saying is, to people who are not wrestling fans, what is that worth? You know, they don't know that stuff. How can they market that? You know, they have to market it as far as 100% pure pro wrestling to pro wrestling fans. Now, that being said, I did see that Turner, Warner Media is starting to get into live sports. They spent a bunch of money on soccer and some other stuff that they're going to do for HBO Max and their streaming services. They already got pro wrestling. It would be smart for them. You know, they own Bleacher Report, by the way. But it would be smart for them to wrangle AEW and get their pay-per-views on HBO Max. Now, the situation that we're going to have here is because AEW is not a big company like WWE. You might be looking at maybe somebody just buying AEW. Now, I'm pretty sure, look, I said it before, I know a lot of people are going to be like, no, that can never happen. The streaming wars, WWE is going to be very expensive. All right? When their streaming deal with Peacock or whatever is up, they've already talked about, hey, maybe we can go to Disney, maybe we can go to Amazon, maybe we could do this, we could do that. AEW is in a prime position to go to other streaming platforms and saying, do you really want to spend $1.5 billion to WWE or whatever and only lease the material? And in 5 or 6 years after that, you know, you got to give them all the materials back, you know, whatever the case may be. And it just could be possible that Peacock and NBC is going to buy WWE. Who knows? Who cares? But looking at it from that perspective, they're not going to want to lease a lot of material, you know, for a long period of time. They're probably not going to want to do that. And AEW is not in the position where they can make companies pay absurd amounts of money for their brand. Not right now, you know, because they still have to talk about, you know, the ad revenues and how much they can get for ads and that kind of stuff. They still have to talk about that. Now they talk about the youngest skewing audience and all that shit. Doesn't really mean much of anything if they can't monetize the product. Okay. So what we're talking about here is, can they get a reasonable amount of money for this thing and maintain the rights to it? Or if they go to an Amazon or an HBO or somebody like that, a Paramount, and those people just try to buy them outright and say, look, your company is small, but it has a lot of potential. You know, we'll just give you blankety blank for it and just give us everything. Library, rings, everything. Tony Khan probably would say no, and it would be smart for him to say no. But there's going to be other promotions out there. You know, there's going to be other promotions. You know, I know Brett Lauderdale said he has no interest in going on TV for GCW, but eventually people are going to want to get paid more money, you know, and that independent shit can only go for so long. You know, there's going to be other independents out there who there's, you know, Ring of Honor being gone is going to create a void, and GCW is going to fill that void. And GCW pretty much for some people has already surpassed Ring of Honor as being a more interesting promotion. But there's going to be there's another spot for somebody else, you know, so there's room for another promotion to grow. And those promotions are going to end up getting bought out probably. MLW is another one. Especially if they don't succeed with that WWE lawsuit, I can see them probably just end up getting bought by somebody, you know? And that's just the way of the streaming wars, is that we're seeing a lot of companies buying their competition and just getting rid of redundancies. And that's the nature of how the business has been going for the last several years. And that's something to consider why WWE got out of streaming. You know, because they saw they couldn't compete with Disney and all these other bigger companies that was about to create their own streaming networks. They're like, shit, we can't do that. NBC wanted to give us some money for it. Fine. You know, let's do that instead. Now, they're going out here in no man's land making these decisions. And AEW, if Tony Khan is smart, he's just watching and parroting. You know, if Vince goes and does this, he's going to go and do this. I expect him to take the library and create documentaries for Ring of Honor talent, video packages, DVDs for like WWE did when they made like the DDP DVD or the Bobby the Brain Heenan or whatever. I expect them to do the whole 9 yards. The history of Ring of Honor, the rise and fall of Ring of Honor. They would be smart to do that now that they got the library. That would create different kinds of content for for consumption that may attract people who are not necessarily wrestling fans. Like, I know people who will watch a wrestling documentary, won't watch a wrestling match. There's like, there are people out there who will watch these, Corey and Carmelas. They'll watch the Total Divas. They won't watch a wrestling match. They won't watch a wrestling show. They'll watch things that are spinoffs of the wrestling show. They'll watch the documentaries. They'll watch. Joe Rogan doesn't watch wrestling. He at least watched the stuff, the A&E biographies. He talked about on his show that he was watching them. He did like Instagram posts about them. He doesn't watch wrestling, but if you package it in a different way, you can get people who don't watch wrestling to watch wrestling. And so AEW now has that option. So it's all about whether they want to do it or not. But it's also going to be about whether they can find a partner who is not just going to try to buy them out in order to keep it. Now, Tony Khan could, he's a billionaire. Even if he can't find a deal right now, it might not hurt him too bad to just hold on to that content. It's not going to hurt him too bad. So this is good. It's a net victory. But I think it was very corny to promote this as the top thing on your show in the hopes of popping a rating. And it's not that big of a deal because Ring of Honor has been dead forever, And to me, that just didn't seem right. Sorry. But I think it's a great idea. All right. So Tony Khan also had a conference call earlier before his big announcement. In comparison, he didn't say anything major. But he did say he's going to be shopping around for a streaming deal. He needs to get on that. He just got to hope that he can package this and really sell this to somebody. Because that's my big question mark, is what is the value of AEW? Even if it's the second biggest wrestling promotion in the country, it's still pretty new. And all the names that are on it are just kind of guys where people are going to be like, he's not Hulk Hogan. He's not mainstream. He ain't been in a bunch of movies or anything like that. I don't know what I can do with that. But, so Esquire magazine did a huge article on CM Punk. And, it's another one of those rise of AEW stink pieces. WWE is sinking. The TV creative is stagnating and all that shit. But the interesting bit that I wanted to talk about is that there was somebody that was quoted in there that says CM Punk wasn't a superhero. When Punk won, we won. And then it's like, ironically, right? I think maybe a day or later, Eric Bischoff talked about how AEW, in order to grow their business, they need a legitimate, larger than life star. A male or female that is larger than life. And you look at the difference is how AEW was so proud of that Esquire article that makes CM Punk sound like a regular ass dude. They told the entire story of his life, him working in independence and his brother and all the lawsuits with WWE and losing Colt Cabana and getting all that stuff. They told the whole story. It was very friendly to AEW and CM Punk. But it does make him sound like a normal guy. Now, he is a little bit of a normal guy in abnormal circumstance, but if he's the biggest star that they got, I don't know if that's good enough. It's good enough for the wrestling fan. Is it good enough for, the big wigs at, in TBS and TNT and Warner Media and all these people who are already tied up in bed with AEW? Is it enough? I don't know. But Bischoff is not wrong. You definitely need to have a larger than life crossover star. And AEW is not even trying to make any of those. You look at Hangman Page, man. He's out there looking like Wildcat Chris Harris. He just looks like a tag team guy that they've saddled with the world title. You know, and I don't want to talk about that right now, but you got to look at the front runner, the guy who if you go into somebody's office and you say, look, drop us $20 million on this thing, they're going to say, okay, who's your top guys? And you say Danielson, Punk, yada, yada. None of these guys are your champion. Who is your champion? My champion is Hangman Page. Who the hell is that? You show him a picture and he's like, I don't know who that is. He doesn't endear me with confidence as being, a guy we can sell tons of merchandise of, and we can, like, does he cut like incredible promos and we can have him do media and stuff like that? It's like, no, Tony Khan's doing all the media. Tony Khan did all the conference calls. He's basically sitting on CM Punk's lap. That was the last time somebody other than him did like major media with CM Punk and Bryan Danielson. And you got to basically hold their hands through media. So Bischoff is right. That would really be the game changer for AEW. Not buying Ring of Honor, not more pro wrestling stuff. If they really want to break through and get to be competition at WWE and not just what these articles are saying, they got to make a bigger star. Absolutely have to. All right, so let's get into the Dynamite portion of this whole thing. Bryan Danielson defeated Christopher Daniels. This match was set up as it was the first main event of Ring of Honor or something like that, and it had no winner. So Tony Khan booked this match, and it was a solid enough match. I thought it was okay. Danielson wins with the triangle. He's starting to develop that as a finish with the elbows to the head. He said in Ring of Honor, we started and ended matches with a handshake. So while Daniels was out, Danielson shook his hand and then said, but we're not in Ring of Honor. And since we're not in Ring of Honor, somebody needs to get their head stomped in. So he stomps Christopher Daniels in the head until Jon Moxley comes in the ring. Moxley, of course, swaggers all over the place and says that he sees that Bryan Danielson is better and more violent than ever. But he's personally at a crossroads, and he's taking this path. And at the end of this path, he has to defeat the American Dragon. And said, if you think you can beat me, take your shot. And Danielson instead powders. And I thought this was okay. This was okay. They're not feuding over anything. That's the problem. It's like they're feuding over whether they're going to be partners or not. Like Danielson is a dickhead who's just completely stomping people's brains in. And Moxley is kind of like, I just want to beat Bryan Danielson. I'm kind of like, okay, I guess. That's not compelling TV, though. Not compelling episodic TV. It's okay for a wrestling match. We're just going to have one match, okay, whatever. But it doesn't win me over. Let's put it like that. All right. Apparently there's going to be a triple threat match for the TNT titles. Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, and Andrade El Idolo. And there's going to be fines and suspensions to anybody who interferes in that match. Sting says that they never needed any help. Well, Darby said this. He never needed any help. And that him and Sammy are psychotic. And, of course, they're going to go out there and give it their all. But they're going to be partners on Sunday. And I thought that was weird. Why not do the 6-man tag on Friday? It's because nobody cares about that. And do the triple threat match at the pay-per-view. I guess you got to have some reason for people to watch Rampage, I guess. And Rampage needs it. Rampage needs it. That's another thing that I kind of forgot to mention, that is that it doesn't matter what time Rampage is on, 7, 10, 12. It doesn't seem to do very good. I think the ratings do okay. Well, the 18 to 49 does okay. But the viewership is in the toilet. It's not good. So there was a tag team Casino Royale. That was won by the Young Bucks. I'm not going to go through every team. But Darius Martin returned to a massive ovation. That was pretty good. And I enjoyed that. I thought that was very nice of the crowd to really pop for Darius Martin. So Top Flight is back. They still lost, but at least they're back. No, I'm sorry. Was it? Yeah, Darius. Darius was the hurt one. So Dante was the last one. Red Dragon helped the Young Bucks eliminate FTR. That was very interesting. And the Young Bucks were alone with Dante Martin. There was a nice little spot where it gave him a little bit of a hope spot before the Young Bucks finally won the match. So the Young Bucks are going to get their shot in the AEW Tag Team Championship. Afterwards, Young Bucks and Red Dragon were fist bumping because now I guess everybody's friends again. I guess. I guess so. You know. Speaking of Red Dragon, Red Dragon and Adam Cole defeated Hangman Page in the Dark Order as Adam Cole defeated what was that kid named Reynolds. After the match, they beat up on Reynolds and beat up on the Dark Order. They taped Hangman Page to the top rope and made him watch as they beat up the Dark Order. There's 48 members of the Dark Order. 2 of them showed up. I was sitting there the whole time like, where are the other guys? There was literally 4 members of the Dark Order in that Casino Royale match or whatever. And now we only got 3 out here now. Then they started beating up on Hangman after they made him watch beat up his friends. Cole and Hangman feels like it's the 3rd match on the show. It just does, man. It doesn't feel like a main event. And Tony Khan said that it's the main event. And even though his buddies in the wrestling media were kind of nudging him to let Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa main event, he stuck to his guns. I'm giving him some credit. He stuck to his guns and said that Cole and Hangman are going to main event. Personally, I would say CM Punk and MJF should main event. They're your longest running story. They're your 2 biggest guys. And in terms of star power, they should main event the show. Just saying. All right. Chris Jericho cut a promo. Jericho essentially just said this is Eddie's big chance. Can he win the big one? Then said if he loses, he will look Eddie Kingston in his eyes and shake his hand. If Eddie Kingston loses, and he's sure Eddie Kingston will lose, he's going to look him straight in the face, laugh at him, and say GFY. He's really trying to get over this influencer GFY stuff, and it's really corny. Interesting piece of business, though, as Santana and Ortiz showed up to the back as Jericho was cutting his promo, and they both fist pumped Jericho. And Jericho says that he'll always have their back. And I was just kind of saying to myself, is that promo and that match and everything from 2 or 3 weeks ago, is that over? Like, we see that Santana and Ortiz leave Chris Jericho. They lost both of their opportunities to become tag team champions. Is that now them admitting that Jericho was right? And that, is that what this is? The inability of AEW to make good on this. You go through this big show of Santana and Ortiz separating from the inner circle. You build them up nicely by having them beat Jericho, and then you give them a tag team battle royal. They lose. You put them in another tag team battle royal. They lost that one too. It's like, oh, okay. So it had nothing to do with Jericho, and Eddie Kingston clearly can't help them. They just suck. It's just not good enough. Maybe Jericho was right. Maybe he did bring in the wrong 2 members of LAX. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's the problem the whole time, is the wrong 2 members of LAX is running around here. They're not doing Santana and Ortiz any favors. Now, my guess is that they're going to swerve him on Sunday and officially join up with Eddie Kingston. But it was pretty weird that they put him in that situation for them to lose. Now, the big segment on the show, this was very long, the CM Punk MJF segment. And dare I say it, dare I be honest, I don't think this got over. This felt like it wasn't over to me. So CM Punk says that he looked in the mirror and asked himself, am I the bad guy? And then he says, up until a week ago, I was sure MJF was the bad guy. And says that it took courage for MJF to do what he did, said what he said, all the stuff that he said the previous week. And it's not that he doesn't believe Max, and he believes him, but he has this strange feeling of feeling gaslit. You know, when somebody says that, you're like, okay, what is that? Okay, whatever. And it says that he doesn't think that Max is lying, but isn't sure that it matters. He says that when his favorite wrestler, and he has a picture of himself with Steve Austin, and when Steve Austin took his ball and went home, he didn't do horrible things. He didn't get mad at the world for it. Now, he's going to contradict this in a minute. Then he laid down and started talking about all the horrible things that MJF did and that embarrassed, legends and stuff like that. Then he says that he wanted to see MJF, and he wants the MJF from last week to show up. We're getting a lot of that in wrestling. I want this particular version of you to show up. So MJF comes out there. He's looking all shy and shaggy and whatever. And CM Punk says, that he used to be like MJF. And he used to do terrible things too. And then CM Punk lays down all the horrible things he did. And it says that I carried that hate. And the hate isn't just going to keep you warm. It's going to burn you up. Then he says that there's some 11-year-old kid who looks up to you. And, you need to think about him as you go through life. And think about all the things that you've done. Then he says, so, when I look in the mirror and I say to myself, am I the good guy? And he says, well, I'm damn well trying. And he offered his hand to MJF. And MJF hugged him. Just hugged him. Squeezing him by the ribs like he was a small child. This led CM Punk, obviously, anybody who should have been smart enough to figure this out. Then MJF kicked him in the balls. The Pinnacle comes out there. They mollywopped Punk for a while. He bled a lot. He's wearing a white shirt, so he's bleeding all over his white shirt. He bled all over MJF's white shirt. They strangled him with the bike chain. And then MJF got on the microphone and says that, you stupid son of a bitch. You stupid, or he called him an old man. He says, I'm a snake, and this Sunday, I'm going to show you that, I am the devil himself. He did the old Kaiser Soze, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled is, pretending he doesn't exist or whatever. And eventually they beat him up to the point where Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara came down there. And maybe after 10 minutes of them, beating the tar out of CM Punk, the babyfaces decided to run to the ring and make the save. This fell flat for me. Mainly because I didn't believe any of it. I didn't believe any of this. Mainly because this is, again, near the end of their feud. Why would, this made Punk come across like was it really a good guy, or was he just being stupid? Because this is stupid babyface stuff. CM Punk should have known MJF as a known liar. MJF has played this game where he's feigned weakness before. He's feigned love and admiration before. He's done this with pretty much everybody. He did the whole thing with Chris Jericho where he was singing with Jericho and all this. And meanwhile, he was plotting on Jericho behind his back. So it's like, you kind of have to, you're insulting people's intelligence. I hate to put it that way, because that's the way AEW fans, they say WWE insults your intelligence. I hate to put it that way, but it's the only way to put it. Clearly MJF was full of shit. All right? Even if it was true, it was too late. That's the point that I kind of wanted to get across here. Even if it was true, it's too late. Look at all this stuff MJF has done. Why would you believe him? It'd have been one thing if it was the beginning of this feud, and maybe they sniped at each other back and forth, and then MJF went out there and explained why he doesn't really screw around with CM Punk and why he stays away from him and isn't his friend. And then CM Punk, falls into it like, wow, is that real? And then MJF heals on him and we begin the feud. But they waited until they've beaten each other bloody once or twice already. And now MJF wants to tell this villainous origin story. And then CM Punk wants to open up a path of redemption, which is fine. I love the path of redemption. That's great. That's great babyface stuff. But you are literally 3 days from the blow off of this feud. What would you going to do? Let's say that MJF shook his hand. Is the match now over? Do we, not have the match now? No. You have to have the match anyway because you've already signed it and already told people it was going to happen. So why would you do that? It makes no sense. And CM Punk's promo kind of went a little long, and I felt like the people were getting a little bit restless. I don't think this worked. I just don't feel like it worked. Sorry, guys. Maybe it's my dislike of Phil. Let me know in the comment section below. Is it just, Mongo, you're a hater of Phil, or do you think that it fell flat? Listen to the crowd reaction for yourself. I think the crowd reaction when he got kicked in the balls was pretty good. But up to that, nobody believed this. Nobody believed in this. And CM Punk's promo was not that bad. It was basically him trying to parallel himself to MJF. Like, my hero let me down too. He left. He let me down too. Even though Austin did come back. He let me down too. And I didn't. That's not why I did what I did. But we were better off doing that from the beginning and not doing it near the end. This just made no sense. All right, so Keith Lee is still hefty. He's backstage. Greetings and salutations, cats and kittens. And he gets interrupted by Starks and Hobbs yet again. Keith Lee this time bows up on him and says, hey, if you interrupt me again, it'll be the last time. Starks lets Keith Lee know that Rampage is Starks' country, and that if he shows up on Rampage, he might not make it to Revolution. And Hobbs, threw a little bit of intimidation, sprinkled a little bit of intimidation Keith Lee's way. And Keith Lee will still be wrestling on Rampage. Okay, whatever. They really cooled Keith Lee off, didn't they? He's been there for 4 weeks now, right? 3 or 4 weeks. He's cool already. They really should just had him. I don't know what they could have done. Maybe he should have done some in-ring promos or something. But him just being backstage doing nothing, just hanging out and catering, probably not good for his cardio and stuff like that. All right, the third match on the show, Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker were defeated by Mercedes Martinez and Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa actually pinned Britt Baker with, the Michinoku driver. So they were kind of just building up to this feud. It was what it was. Them making Thunder Rosa the only woman that could ever beat Britt Baker is pretty weird. I don't know. I don't care about this. I really don't. I didn't care about this match. Ty Conti was backstage. She was interrupted by Jade Cargill, who told her that nobody cares about that karate shit she can do. As she was telling everybody that, as I guess it was Marvez was telling everybody that Tay Conti was, a blue belt in judo, a black belt in judo, blue belt in some other stuff. And Jade Cargill made sure that nobody, cares about her actual real life ability to beat your ass. Nothing matters. And then she said that you should be thankful I gave you this opportunity. And then we are told that Tay Conti cannot touch Jade Cargill until they have their match. All right. I don't care about this either. They didn't do a good job of building this either. Again, this match has no heat. Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa really doesn't have any heat. And this doesn't have any heat. Just no heat whatsoever. Now, Cesar Bononi, he's back. He did a job to Wardlow. He got powerbombed 3 times. Wardlow stopped Spears from hitting Cesar Bononi with a chair. This was very interesting. Spears bowed up, got all up in Wardlow's face. Wardlow backed him down. Then later, Spears, tried to make everything was good. Everything is all right. Everything is good. MJF showed up and said that if Wardlow wins the TNT title, he can keep it, but he's almost sure he's not going to win. Wardlow says, well, I always make sure you win. MJF then smacked him right in the chops and says that You need to remind you of your place. You're not a wrestler. You're my bodyguard. And if you don't work for AEW. You work for me. And if I fire you, your entire family are going to be out on the street. And while I appreciated this, it was nice. If he doesn't work for AEW, how is he working matches? Why would MJF allow his bodyguard to work matches? And it's been one thing if it's matches that, MJF sanctions. MJF says, hey, he's only going to work opponents that I want him to work. But he's allowing Wardlow to gain up all this momentum. Also, wasn't Wardlow part of this whole thing where they beat up CM Punk earlier? Now, maybe somebody should remind me. But it makes no sense if he was part of the heel faction that beat up on CM Punk just literally like an hour before this. And now all the people are going crazy chanting for this guy. I'm like, wait a minute. You can't have both. Now, maybe Wardlow wasn't out there, and I think he was because MJF was out there. Maybe he was out there, he just didn't participate. But something tells me that Wardlow was out there participating in the bloodletting of CM Punk, who is the big hero of that story. And we're supposed to just cheer that he was getting bullied by MJF. I don't know, man. AEW's doing their own thing. I don't like it. This Dynamite was a bit of a boring show, if we're being honest. Danielson and Daniels was fine. That was just basically a throwback. That was for if you are a 42-year-old wrestling fan and you grew up watching Ring of Honor, that's something that you would be interested in. Me, I was only mildly interested in it. It was Chris Daniels' first match in like a year on Dynamite. So it got somebody who should have been on Dynamite. Also, I remember Christopher Daniels came to Impact. He literally didn't do anything while he was there. Same thing for Kazarian. He went to Impact too recently and he didn't do much of anything. So who knows, man? But so that's the go home show. I was not thrilled with it. I felt like MJF and Punk did the most to get over their match. Eddie Kingston didn't even show up to this show. At the same time, what they've done with MJF and Punk just feels like this feud is running on fumes and we really barely crossing the finish line. That's just kind of how I feel about it. But let's get into these predictions. All right, so let's get into the predictions for AEW Revolution. It is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 match card. The card actually looks pretty good. So let's get into it. Hopefully we can do this in under 30 minutes because I know I had y'all for a long time. But hey, I warned you we were going long on this one. All right, so the first match, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, and Sting versus Andrade El Idolo, Matt Hardy, and Isaiah Cassidy. What a hodgepodge of... they're probably going to have Jeff debut here. Oh, wait, he's still under contract. He can't show up. Definitely Sammy Guevara, Darby, Sting going to win. Matt Hardy shouldn't be wrestling. It should maybe be Andrade and Private Party. But I guess in the star power would be too lopsided. That's why they put Matt Hardy in it. And maybe Mark Quinn is hurt. I don't know. But this is a stupid match. I don't like this feud. It involves stairwells and Sammy Guevara sucks. And Darby Allin should definitely be doing more than this. And Sting is he's just there for the ride, dog. He's there for the fun and the free ice cream. And I heard that Tony Khan's giving away White Claw fried chicken and blunts. So I'm pretty sure Sting is there for that too. The next match, Chris Jericho versus Eddie Kingston. So I think you have to ask the question, where is Eddie Kingston going? If you're going to push Eddie Kingston towards some kind of title, he should win this match. If we're just going to try to legitimize Eddie Kingston, I guess he should win this match. Jericho doesn't need to win. Jericho has made an entire career of losing and still managing to be over. So he doesn't need to win. I'm glad that Jericho's in great shape. He looks good. You know, I hope Kingston comes back and looks good too. This ought to be fun. But Kingston is not the. I know a lot of people have kind of praised his work, but I've never really been a big fan of what Eddie Kingston can do in the ring. Mainly because of his inability to move around, due to mostly to his his body type and weight and everything. And he just came across like a sloppy brawler. That works sometimes, but his faux Japanese brawling style, I don't know about that. But I think Jericho's going to put him over, because Jericho's almost always willing to do the right thing when the right time comes. So we're going to go with Jericho putting over Eddie Kingston here. So Kingston wins. Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley is a match for no reason. It's a match where nothing is gained. Nothing is really lost. You have to ask the question, like, what happens if Danielson wins? Nothing. What happens if Moxley wins? He beat Bryan Danielson, which was his goal. But now what? I'm guessing the point of this whole thing was they wanted to, Danielson wanted to team up. Now, it's not a stipulation that they have to team up if Danielson wins. It's not a stipulation that they're not going to team up if Moxley wins. So it's very possible that Moxley wins this match and still they team up. So I'm just kind of sitting here like, what is gained and what is lost on this match? And the complete and total lack of story is telling me this is probably going to be the opening match. This should be the opener. There's almost no damn reason for this match to exist. I'm going to go with Moxley, mainly because, both of these, Danielson probably won't be world champion. If he didn't win the title from Hangman, who is a very weak champion, then he's probably not going to win the title anytime soon. And Moxley's already been world champion. He's kind of above that belt. He doesn't really need it. So, are we just preparing for Moxley to do maybe his storyline with Punk next? Who, or whatever the case may be. I don't know. I'm going to go with Jon Moxley just because he seems more like a natural AEW guy. And also, I did see this, that Tony Khan did I think he did an interview where he talked about Jon Moxley being integral in a lot of WWE guys coming over because he really pitched them on AEW. And Bryan Danielson was one of those guys that he talked to and really kind of sold Bryan Danielson on AEW. So even though guys are kind of like, we can't do any talks because of contracts, they talk to their friends, So I'm pretty sure, Moxley was talking to Danielson this whole time and talked him into coming to AEW. It's smart stuff. That's what you have friends in the company for. People do that. We'll go with Moxley. Face of the Revolution ladder match. Keith Lee versus Wardlow versus Powerhouse Hobbs versus Ricky Starks versus Orange Cassidy versus to be announced. There's another guy supposed to be in this match. I don't know. I'm going to go with Keith Lee. I think Keith Lee is going to win this match because he's been the focus, the main focus of this entire thing so far. And I think they want to start him out at a high level. I don't see why he doesn't just win the match instead of winning the fucking... He could just challenge for the TNT title on this show and win it, rather than being this silly ladder match. I don't see why he just can't win the ladder. Just win the title, man. You put these beefcakes and these hulks in this ladder match. What is the point of this? Like, what is Wardlow going to do on a ladder? Really? What on earth is Powerhouse Hobbs going to do on a ladder? And why do he need a ladder to do it? He could do it with his hands. Orange Cassidy and Ricky Starks, man. I like Ricky Starks, but I just don't see it happening for him. So I'm going to go with Keith Lee. I think Keith Lee is the guy. They want to make sure they cement him as being their top big guy. And I see him winning the TNT title pretty quickly. Jade Cargill versus Tainara Conti for the TBS Championship. Clearly, Jade Cargill was going to win. Ty Conti was literally an open challenge opponent, and she's thrown on the card. This will probably be the second match. CM Punk versus MJF in a dog collar match. CM Punk is going to win this match because he lost in Chicago, and he got humiliated on the Go Home show. So they wouldn't have gone that far if he was going to lose the actual blow-off match. And plus, the babyface should win the blow-off match. MJF doesn't lose anything for losing this match. But, so we're gonna, if Punk loses, I guess he doesn't lose anything. He's still CM Punk. But you have to ask the question, if MJF wins, you got to put the fucking belt on him next, right? Like, this, what more can you do? You know, what more can you do? Because he's feuded with everybody except Danielson at that point. So, if MJF wins, he got to be the champion next month or whenever the next pay-per-view is. But Punk can win and set MJF back a little bit. And MJF can start working towards, winning titles or something like that. And have to be forced to eat a little bit of crow and, start his push all the way over again. And that'll save you some time if you really do want to make him the champion or something. But I think you got to have CM Punk win the blow-off match. Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus versus Red Dragon, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly versus the Young Bucks for the AEW Tag Team Championships. Now it seems like a pretty good time to put the belts on Red Dragon, to have them backstab the Young Bucks to win the titles. That seems like a nice little nod to continue their whole Bullet Club Undisputed Era story or whatever, leading probably to Red Dragon versus FTR or Red Dragon versus the Young Bucks, and build that story. The Jurassic Express have been absolutely awful tag team champions. They're boring. They're boring. They're as bad as the Lucha Brothers. The Lucha Brothers were not good tag team champions either. They literally just had matches on Rampage. Like, that was it. They didn't really do much of anything. And now Jurassic Express doesn't really do much of anything. They are less featured now than they were before they won the titles. It was the same thing for the Lucha Brothers. Like, the Lucha Brothers always had big, long matches on Dynamite. And then they won the titles. They were relegated to Rampage, where they still had big, long matches, but nobody watched them. And now it's the same thing with Jurassic Express, where it's like they're booted off to the show nobody watches. So I think it's going to do a title switch here. I would go ahead with Red Dragon, personally. But we never know. They may want to try to solidify Jurassic Express by having them win. Remember when Jungle Boy used to be so hot? Jungle Boy, like when he won that big battle royal over Christian, and he was going into that Saturday Dynamite, whatever, against Kenny Omega, and he was like one of the top baby faces in the entire business. He was super hot. Then he lost that match, but he still had a ton of momentum. And then all the other guys started coming in, Keith Lee and Adam Cole, and everybody came in and took his spotlight. Yeah, I remember that too. Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa for the AEW Women's World Title. I think if there's going to be any point in time in which Britt Baker is going to lose, Thunder Rosa could possibly be that opponent. At the same time, they're probably going to want to give Britt Baker her win back from the Lights Out match. The likelihood of, the next contender just showing up on this show, there are always going to be tons of surprises on these AEW shows. Like, I can see Athena, aka Ember Moon, showing up on this show. I don't know if it's been 30 days or 90 days for Toni Storm yet, but she can possibly be, because she left in December. So 90 days will be late March. But Ember Moon is free. I can see her being brought in, or Mia Yim, or somebody being the next opponent for Britt Baker. So even though it would make sense for Thunder Rosa to win the title here, because she can beat Britt Baker, and Britt Baker's title run is running on fumes. It really is. Like, she really has been champion and has not done much of anything in a really long time. So switching the title just to freshen it up might make sense, but they probably won't do it because Thunder Rosa was literally just thrown in this match. So Britt Baker's going to win, but they're going to introduce her next opponent, which will probably be Athena, aka Ember Moon, or somebody else that WWE released more than 90 days ago. So the main event, which shouldn't be the main event, the Hangman Adam Page versus Adam Cole for the AEW World Title. If it were me, Adam Cole would win the title here, and Red Dragon would be the tag team champions. And this, I don't know what they're calling them. They're not calling them the Super Clique, are they? The Super Clique is Adam Cole and the Young Bucks, right? So that would be your trio of champions going forward. It would be Adam Cole along with Red Dragon. Similar to Undisputed Era in NXT. I think it'll be a nice little callback. Adam Page has been an absolute failure as world champion. Like I said, he reminds me a lot of Wildcat Chris Harris from TNA, where he's just a cowboy hat and a decent look. But the moment he opens his mouth, and he can work a little bit, but the moment he opens his mouth, he is as interesting as a root canal. I mean, the guy's just got nothing. He's just got no personality whatsoever. So I would put over Adam Cole. AEW would put over Adam Page. So I think MJF will end up being the guy who takes the belt from Adam Page. So we're going to go with Adam Page winning the title and maintaining the championship. And to the detriment of the company. I would be surprised if Adam Cole won. But, so I'm going to go with Page, even though he sucks. So, my predictions once again. Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, and Sting over Andrade El Idolo. Matt Hardy and Isaiah Cassidy. Eddie Kingston over Chris Jericho. John Moxley over Bryan Danielson. CM Punk over MJF. Keith Lee to win the Face of the Revolution ladder match. Jade Cargill to retain the TBS women's title. Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly to win the tag team championships. Britt Baker to maintain the AEW women's title. And for Adam Page to win the AEW world title. So let me know what you guys think. This has been a very long show. Thank you guys for hanging in there. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, donate to the channel. Thank you guys for your time. And I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.